Kim. I hope y'all are having a good start to your Monday. Oh boy, the deeper we go. So now, not only is that Biden Hur tapes been released, or the recordings of that investigation about the classified documents and all that. Now they're saying that Joe Biden has a cancer, like prostate cancer. I was like, oh my goodness. It's very curious timing, like Miss Rita says here, but let's check it out, see what they've got to say. We know they're going to somehow spin this almost to get sympathy for the old man, but whatever. I don't want anybody to be sick or, you know, go away. I just want them out of their position, not out of this world, if that makes sense. So, whatever. Let's
And
see.
it's time for Lefties losing it. Let's start with another celebrity who is determined to trash their own reputation. This one appears to have no qualms about his legacy being damaged with his ignorant, harebrained hate and vitriol. Here is Bruce Springsteen launching into a boring anti-Trump diatribe to an audience who would rather he just sang some of his classic songs.
They're removing residents off American streets and without due process of law are deporting them to foreign detention centers and prisons. This is all happening now. The majority of our elected representatives have failed to protect the American people from the abuses of an unfit president.
Could you imagine paying all that money to go see somebody in concert and this is the nonsense you hear? I would rather they just sing the songs, make the beer, not that I drink beer, just make the food, make the clothes. You don't have to do all this stuff. Make the ice cream like Ben and Jerry's. Like, why do they have to get into all this activist style political hellscape? Really, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. They don't need to bring all this into it. Just vote, do what you got to do, and be quiet about it. It's like, come on. That's why everybody's all divided up and mad at each other over all this stupid political nonsense. But the more they keep talking, the more I'm just going to keep posting these videos. I mean, I don't really care. Anyway.
He wasn't done yet, though the audience seemed to be thoroughly fed up. You can tell that by the scant applause.
The America that I've sung to you about for 50 years is real. And regardless of its faults, it's a great country with great people. So we'll survive this moment.
Look, we can't talk about Bruce Springsteen without featuring his great work during the election campaign, where he appeared at Kamala rallies to belt out the classics.
They'll be carving you up all right.
Oh, God.
You gotta stay hungry. Well, I'm just about starving tonight.
Ugh.
Oh, dear.
Little world falling apart. This gun's for hire.
Oh, Lord.
Even if we're just dancing in the car.
Now, trust me, that was literally the
Ugh.
best bit. I could have been mean and played this.
Working all day in my dad's garage. Driving all night, chasing some mirage.
Oh, that
Lord.
is green. But at least old Bruce is sure-footed. Sure, he can't sing anymore, but he can dance. I'll have more celebrities disgracing themselves tomorrow night, but now to the left losing it because the Trump administration is granting refugee status to a few dozen Afrikaners. Of course, white landholders are increasingly fleeing the racial hatred and violence of modern day South Africa, but MSNBC would prefer them to stay where they are. Here is Donna Edwards.
Well, in my view, what makes it different is that they are white South Africans. The president, in my view, has not hidden his racism behind a bushel. In fact, in his policies, whether it's removing government workers or, in this case, admitting white South Africans while denying refugee status, asylum seekers from other countries.
Disgraceful. And the race baiters are in the churches too. Here is Bishop Sean Rowe.
We can't be ourselves in the Episcopal Church and take the step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. Our church has a long commitment to racial justice and reconciliation, and we have historic ties with the Anglican Church of South Africa. Desmond Tutu is a part of, been a partner in this work for us. So we're just not able to take this step. It's not in line with anything that we're about.
Now let's have a quick look at what's happening in South Africa. Here is a politician calling for white women, white children, and even their pets to be killed.
Every one of us will kill 5 white people, will kill their children, will kill their women, will kill anything.
And here is a politician leading a stadium full of people calling for, and I quote, shoot to kill the boer, kill the farmer. But MSNBC and CNN and the rest of them must have missed all that. If you want to see how loathsome and intolerant these leftists are, then look no further than Ashley Allison, who firstly seems to be quite happy with the discriminatory laws in South Africa, and then she really ramps up the bigotry.
That allowed for a racial reconciliation, one that this country has yet to do, but South Africa did it, and they reformed their constitution, and part of that is that the people who are native to that land deserve their rightful land back. That is not what the Afrikaners actually want to have happen, which are the white Africans, and so who are not originally from Africa, who colonized South Africa also. And so that is what they are saying is discrimination. Now, if the Constitution in South Africa is discriminatory, they have their checks and balances in that land, just like we do. And that is for them to, so if the Afrikaners don't actually like the land, they can leave that country.
They're leaving to come here.
No.
These refugees are coming here.
They can actually even go to where their native land is, which is probably Germany.
Are you against them coming here?
Holland. Holland.
Are you against them coming here?
I'm against the hypocrisy of this administration.
No, that's not the question. The question is, are you against them coming here?
If there was actually a genocide happening,
so Afrikaners being murdered in their own farms should flee to where they came from almost 500 years ago. The Dutch settlers, the Afrikaners, first arrived in Africa in 1652, but they need to go back to Holland. But some gangbanger from El Salvador who was in America 5 minutes and entered illegally, well, they've got to be considered American and given all their rights. Let's allow Ashley Allison to finish her asinine point.
I'm not opposed to Venezuelans and South Americans coming to America if they are fleeing and looking for asylum. What I am against, it's not about being against them. What I am against is that they are being given special treatment when there is not a genocide happening in South Africa, and they just don't like the law of the land. Well, you know what they tell them?
Yes, they don't like the law of the land in South Africa, the ones where their land is seized without compensation. Great point, Ashley. Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, we're going to speak about the timing of Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis shortly, but first on this issue, have you been surprised by the manner in which these leftists have attacked a few dozen Afrikaners arriving in America?
You know, Rita, God bless Scott Jennings, who we just saw there on CNN. That man deserves a pay raise because of just the utter humiliating crap that he has to go through night in and night out. on CNN. I mean, it's just utterly insane there. I mean, this woman is clearly telling America that she just hates white people. I mean, that is actually what she's saying there. She even she knows though that she actually cannot say that, because even she would probably be kicked off the show if she said it there. But that's exactly what she's saying. We're talking here about 4 to 4.5 dozen Afrikaners. This is nothing. I mean, this is a pimple on the back of the butt of the rear end of the American immigration apparatus. It's a tiny sliver of the migrants who have been let in over the past 4 years under the Biden administration there. Again, this is pure unmitigated racism there. It's nothing less than disgusting. By the way, the South African government is absolutely positively horrific. I know this because, Rita, prior to our first baby being born last December, my wife and I were about to go on a baby moon, as the millennials and Gen Z call it. We actually looked into going to South Africa there, but I did a little research on the government there. This is a radically Marxist, extraordinarily far left, horrific regime currently in power there. They are the ones currently leading the genocide charge, incidentally, against Israel in the ICJ and the ICC. We have this horrifically racist policy. They're outright Marxism, stripping private property there. It's horrific. And anyone, frankly, who defends this current government in South Africa, it says a lot more about them than it says about anything else. But ultimately, Rita, the American left, they see every single issue through one prism and one prism only, and that is race.
Well, they are all neo-Marxists, really, because what she said there, if you listen to the full clip, she was applauding South Africa. She was saying they've had the reckoning that America hasn't had yet, as if it's something to look forward to. And yes, sadly, South Africa is going down the path of Zimbabwe. You can see that happening very clearly. Now, let's talk about Joe Biden and the sad news that he is battling advanced cancer. Josh, I want to play you this clip from 2 years ago when on stage Biden said he had cancer. He even explained why he thought he had cancer. But then we were told, oh, no, this was just a gaffe.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on the windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I had so damn many other people I grew up have cancer, and why can't for the longest time Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
That doesn't sound like a gaffe or a stutter, Josh.
No, and look, the crazy thing, Rita, there's a new book out this week, this book called Original Sin, right, by Jake Tapper of CNN and Alex Thompson of Axios. It's making all the headlines there. It's generating all the attention here in the United States this week is focused on this one book by Tapper and Thompson. And of course, they're making themselves out to be the innocent victims in the fourth estate there in the media, as if they were duped by the Biden White House there. They obviously were completely in on the game from the get-go there. But the crazy thing is that the same people, Rita, that just pulled a Soviet-level information operation to gaslight the American people for the past 5 years about Joe Biden's mental and physical decline, both people inside the administration and their mouthpiece media propagandists on the outside, the Pravda, like Jake Tapper before he conveniently flipped 180 degrees there, the same people who gaslit us for the past 4 years are now going to say that those of us who have the chutzpah, who have the gall, to ask whether or not there was a similar cover-up about Joe Biden's medical condition, i.e. is cancer diagnosed there. They're about to say that we're horrible people all over again. Oh, don't worry us, Oh, yeah, maybe we kind of buried a few stories there about the president's kind of his cognitive decline there, but don't you dare ask about whether or not we actually hid his cancer diagnosis there. But look, I mean, that clip kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it there? I mean, that's not a gaffe, Rita. That is a man just saying the truth out in the open there. Funny, I find it awfully convenient that this news about this prostate cancer is coming out right now, as I said, the very week of this Original Sin book by Jay Tapper and Alex Thompson. I'm not buying it. Something here is up.
And it's coming a week or so after that appearance on The View, where Jill Biden had an extended interview. Again, it was disastrous. It didn't go as they planned. It just reinforced what we all thought about his cognitive decline. And this seems to be the counter to it. It's terribly sad, but this is the level of mistrust that's in that administration now and in the mainstream media, that the questions being asked about when they learnt about this diagnosis. Now, President Trump's had a history-making Middle East trip, an example of his peace through strength strategy. He acknowledge, Josh, that the US hasn't always been a force of good in the region.
Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves.
Josh, this is a dramatically different approach from what we've seen in the past. This is a rejection of the neocon, warhawk, interventionists. How did you see that trip?
Well, that speech specifically was a fantastic speech. I watched the whole thing, actually. He gave that speech in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He spoke at this U.S.-Saudi conference. So he's done yeoman's work to already pull back Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates from falling prey into the Chinese sphere of influence there. China had done a lot of outreach via its Belt and Road Initiative into the Arabian Peninsula during the Biden administration, because the Biden administration was mollycoddling the Iranian regime, and the Arabs basically then all went to China. So Donald Trump, I think, deserves 3 cheers for what he did with the Saudis and the Emiratis. Now, Rita, I will be candid with you. I am a bit concerned about the Qatari piece of the puzzle there. Qatar is a much more complicated country than Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Qatar has been a financier of Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, even Al-Qaeda and ISIS at times in the past there. So I'm not necessarily in love with Qatar being a whole part of this American bromance in the Middle East there. I view Qatar quite differently, actually, than the Saudis and Emiratis, which are non-Islamist Arab states there. I'm also a little bit concerned about the potential direction of the Iran nuclear talks there, but ultimately everything that Donald Trump is saying on the Iran issue is actually very good. So as long as he says what he means and he means what he says, and I think everything's going to be okay.
Well, it seems to be there also not just to try to bring about peace, but also to do business deals. He signed deals worth around $600 billion with the Saudis alone. And as a construction guy, he was very impressed with the marble work in the region.
The job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I've seen perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done.
Yes, the marble work there, Josh, is something to behold. Meanwhile, the Democrats have the likes of Tim Walz, the failed VP candidate, setting the agenda. He's called immigration officials a modern-day Gestapo.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye. Just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared.
Josh, is this the future of the Democrats? Is this what they're going to take to the 2028 election?
You know, it's as if nothing has changed, isn't it? I mean, this is exactly what the Democrats were saying during the first Trump administration. I mean, AOC becomes a congresswoman from New York City in the 2018 midterm election. In her first year in Congress in 2019, I vividly recall her comparing the ICE detention facilities to Nazi-esque concentration camps. So here we are 6 years later, and now Tim Walz is making the exact same analogies. I mean, this is so disgusting that I barely feel like it even has to be commented on. But on the one hand, I mean, just so utterly appalling, obviously. I mean, to make these sorts of analogies there. I mean, these people that are being interrogated, and by the way, they're given habeas corpus, they're giving due process, you know, contrary to what we hear in the corporate media here. These people that are being seized by ICE are not U.S. citizens. They are in the country illegally. They are not on a legal visa. They are here illegally there. The Jews who were rounded up by the Gestapos were citizens of their country. They had done literally nothing wrong other than the mere fact they were Jewish. So this is just such an appalling, just a loathsome, disgusting analogy any way you can possibly draw it there. But I think the more important point is they've learned absolutely freaking nothing. They got schwacked in this presidential election, Rita. And look at that. They don't know what to do. They're running around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off there. I'm just happy that I'm not the one who has to sort out, because frankly, if I were a Democratic strategist, if I were a Jimmy Carville, I don't even know what I would be thinking when I see crap like this there. I mean, how do you rectify this? These people have to just go away and hide their heads in a paper bag for the rest of eternity. That's probably their only decent chance to get back to sanity at this point.
I tell you, if you're JD Vance and you're watching that, you would have a smile on your face because he's just going to walk it in.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a cakewalk if they don't improve their game, the Democrats. Before you go, tell me about this Supreme Court decision. The justices ruled 7-2. It was a split decision, 7-2 to temporarily block the Trump administration's efforts to deport Venezuelan gang members who are in the country illegally. The decision was largely over a technical issue, Josh?
Right. So it's not quite a substantive ruling as to the statutory interpretation of this 1798 statute, the Alien Enemies Act. There, having said that, Rita, the fact that it was a 7-2 decision is nonetheless indicative there. So we've seen a handful of these 7-2 decisions there. It always ends up being Justices Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. They are by far the most two conservative, the most two constitutionalist, originalist justices there. Unfortunately, all three of Donald Trump's nominees, Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Neil Gorsuch, they're better for sure than John Roberts, but they are not nearly as good as Sam Alito or Clarence Thomas. And if a SCOTUS vacancy, or God willing, more than one, opens up in these 4 years while Trump is president, Rita, conservatives are going to have to do a lot better than we did the last time there, because these are really, really, really precious vacancies. We simply cannot afford to mess it up.
I think that would be amongst Donald Trump's worst mistakes in his first administration, because he could have really secured the Supreme Court, and the candidates he picked, whoever advised him, they haven't worked out as planned. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.
Oh, anyway, of course, so this whole thing with Biden, it is curious timing for sure. And like people are saying, it's just kind of like trying to get sympathy for the old man. But whatever. I'm going to record a little bit more today, I think. I want to play these tapes along with the actual transcript together. So I'm going to see how I can do that. But I plan on doing that probably over the next few days, because it's like 5 hours, I think, in total. But yeah, anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great afternoon if I don't see you. See y'all. Bye.